And I'm going to let Social Landscapes actually explain what we're going to be doing tonight. But just before we get started, I just wanted to just do a bit of housekeeping. So I should introduce myself. My name's Kat Drake, and I'm the Sustainability Program Manager at Lancaster West Neighbourhood Team. And thank everyone for coming along. It's really great to have your input into this, because it's means that we can make the gardens and the green spaces so much nicer for everyone. So just to let you know, this meeting will be recorded, but you can keep your cameras on or off depending on whether you would prefer to be seen or not seen. Obviously, we would encourage you to keep your cameras on because it just makes it feel more like a workshop. But if you don't want to, that's fine. And then just if you can mute your microphones unless you're speaking, just to reduce any background noise, that'd be great. So, but there's a chat function, so you can basically at the bottom of the screen you can press on the chat window, and then the chat option, and then you can actually put any questions you have into the chat as we go along, and then we'll deal with them as we go along. So don't feel like you have to wait until the end. And then I don't think there's a hands up function on Zoom. No, so I think just do the chat function if you want to ask questions. I think that's all the housekeeping. So Alfie, do you want to start the recording? Unless you've already started. Oh, you've already started. Sorry. So I'll introduce the Lancaster West Neighbourhood Team that we have here in the meeting now. So I've already introduced myself. We also have Alfie Peacock, who is a project support officer here, and Lizzie Lambrou, who's the community development and innovation officer. And at the end of the meeting, there'll be information about how you can stay in touch with us. So I will hand over now to the architects, who I don't believe you met yet, the architects who've been selected to do all the design work for your block for Treadgold House. So I'm very excited to introduce ECD architects. So I'll hand over to you, Liz, and you can introduce yourself.
Yep. Yeah. Hi, thank you, Kat. So I'm Lizzie, and I'm an architect at ECD Architects. My colleague James is also working on the project, and he's the director of ECD, and a couple of other colleagues, in fact, as well. And we've already been doing some work on Lancaster West Estate, on Verity Close, and a couple of other blocks. So we've been enjoying that. And in the bottom of the screen there is us giving a talk about whole life carbon to some of the, I think mostly members of staff, but other people were there too. Anyway, we're really excited to be working on Treadgold House and to bring in the ideas that have already been discussed with you, and then also to pick up ideas from the workshops that you're having today, particularly in relation to balconies and so on. So really looking forward also to hearing about the discussion that you're about to have. So I will now I'm just here to say hello, because really this is about the landscape today. So over to Tish and Michel to talk about landscape.
Can I just say one more thing before you hand over? One more housekeeping thing that I forgot. If everyone could actually put into the chat window your name and your flat number, that would be really helpful, just so that, in fact, you don't have to put your name in because that will come up anyway, but just your flat number, that would be really helpful for us, just so we know who's here and who's represented. Okay, thank you. I'll hand over to you now.
Good. Thank you, Kat, and thank you, Lizzie. My name is Michel Till, and I'm from Social Landscapes. And with you today is also Tish Vale, who's also from Social Landscapes. And we're going to be facilitating this workshop tonight, and also the next two workshops of this particular series. The series of online workshops is funded by Innovate UK. And it's an opportunity for you basically to I guess, reimagine and co-design the outdoor spaces that surround Treadgold House. So with outdoor spaces, I mean the green spaces, but also we'll have a look at the car park and the balconies as well. The implementation of these ideas will be subject to further funding. And that's something that we as an organization, Social Landscapes, do quite regularly, that we run community design workshops with residents, and the details of those designs that we come up with, and also the budget that we come up with, is a support to raise extra funds. But for now, the ideas that we come up with will be subject to funding. And I also want to say, if during the workshop we will hopefully create conversation and hear from you, and if you have a question and you're not so familiar with the chat, then feel free to just come in and interrupt and ask the question. That's very welcome as well. And writing on the chat is fine too, if you prefer that. So just briefly, the agenda of what we're going to be doing tonight. So there'll be an introduction of who we are as Social Landscapes and what we do, so that you know who's working with you tonight. And then we'll also have a small section on why we create community spaces. What are the benefits of these spaces? We'll have an opportunity to look at the activity sheet that we send around and hear from you. And don't worry, if you haven't thought about it before, then you'll have an opportunity to do that now. And finally, we'll have a little exercise where we get everyone's ideas for those different spaces. And then we'll introduce the next workshop. As I said, it's a series, so they follow on from each other, build on each other, and you're very welcome to attend all of them. Good, so briefly a bit more about Social Landscapes and what we do. We're a community interest company based in London, and we, as our name sort of suggests, I guess, we bring people and place together. So we want to engage community groups in the public space to reimagine and redesign the places that surround them. And that's what we'll be doing tonight. We believe that those community spaces, they contribute to our individual, our social, and also the ecological well-being. And here I'll pass over to Tish.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Mish, for that nice introduction. And the next few slides that we're going to go through are just a little bit more detail of what we do as a company. So the first slide here is that we work with communities in community engagement and consultations on housing estates and community groups, just as you are. We like to bring residents together to create places that they cherish, and we use participatory design to help create those spaces. We also bring places in the community, so we often create, once the designs are done, we sometimes facilitate those spaces by bringing communities together to actually help build them. And we also create spaces within parks and community spaces such as orchards and food growing as well. We also run trainings. We specialize in permaculture design, which is a design methodology that helps people not just create functional spaces, but also beautiful spaces that help not just the people who inhabit them, but also increase biodiversity through hopefully connecting with nature.
Good, and just why we do this work and what we believe the benefits of those community spaces are. What we observe with community spaces that we create is that there's an increased sense of ownership and also an increased sense of belonging amongst those groups. There's often more social cohesion. People meet outside and engage with each other, and the spaces being more used also creates more safety. So in many cases we redesign spaces that have been neglected and have become dumps or just prone to crime. We're hoping to make spaces more accessible to all, and also make them used by a large diversity of people. So a question that we might ask is, what can this space be so that it attracts a large demographic to it? What are the different elements that can be included to make it useful for a lot of members of our community? And people using spaces, using green spaces and being in nature obviously increases our physical, mental, and also social health and well-being. And then there's numerous ecological benefits. There's on this picture, it says just biodiversity, but there's also air quality, and there's just generally numerous ecological benefits, and it's a way for us to do our bit for the planet as well, and in the process increase our quality of life. Good, and that's really just the introduction of who we are and what we do and why we're here today with you. As I said, if there's questions, feel free to come in and ask if you want to know a little bit more. And if not, I will pass this over to Tish again, and we're having a start on looking at the activity sheet.
Great. So I'm hoping that you've had a chance to look at the activity sheet that was sent to you probably over a week ago or so now. You might have it close to hand. I'll give you a moment or so to find it if it's not quite close to hand. But if not, we can sort of fill it in together here. Now I know most people have their cameras off, so what Mish is going to do is he's going to scribble on the slide in front of you, because what I'm going to go through the three top questions on the activity sheet, and we're going to then ask you what your answers are. So you can either click yourself off or take yourself off mute, and once I ask the questions, you can then sort of individually answer the questions, or you can pop them in your chat. And the idea is that hopefully we can start to see where some of the outcomes of these questions are in front of us. I hope that is clear for everybody. So I'm going to ask the first question. Where do you most visit in your outdoor spaces? Which is the space that you most visit often? If anyone wants to just take themselves.
Maria, yes. The communal garden and the garden that's adjacent to our flat on the ground floor.
Is that the bottom garden?
On the left side of the picture, yeah, there are two holes there. I don't know what, or maybe that's where you put your tick. Yeah,
yeah.
That's where my flat is located. So, and there are 4 of us residents who have those gardens accessible to us, but hopefully it's not going to be banned because it's risky according to, I don't know, I don't want to mention names, but according to them, they said it's very risky because it's not level. So is there a way of leveling those gardens and keeping it safe to walk about?
Good question, yeah, and these are all things we can explore.
Yeah, these are the sort of feedbacks that we want from residents. And what we'll do at the moment is we're just recording all of these notes and all the sort of the opinions and thoughts and ideas that come from you. Would anyone else like to share where they spend most of their time if you visit the outdoor spaces?
So there's a comment in the chat.
Okay, in the garden.
The garden. So
Mhm. Okay, so that's
That's
garden as
this
well.
space also, yeah.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else like to offer where they spend time outside? Okay, great, thank you. And then I guess the second question is a similar sort of question to that. It's which is your favorite outdoor space? Is it the same as where you visit, or is it somewhere different? Okay.
Balcony, favorite balcony, yeah.
Balcony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay,
There's
fantastic.
some additional, tables and benches where people can sit. At the moment, we only have two tables and about 2 or 3 benches.
Good, thank
And
you.
is that for the whole of the outdoor spaces? That's for the
That's
all
the communal garden.
communal gardens, yeah. Okay. And this is the
In the garden adjacent to my flat now, there's nothing there.
uh-huh. And then my third question is this might tie into your favorite spot, I'm not sure, but have you noticed where the sunniest spots are in the garden spaces? Do you go and sit in those spaces, or do you just notice perhaps there's more flowers or plants in those sunnier spaces? It would be good to get your observations of where they are as well.
Hello.
Hi, Pat.
Oh yeah. Oh, you do know me. The most, like in the communal garden, I mean, I can't, I do take my grandchildren down there like in normal times, but you get most of the sun up the far end towards the sports centre. The rest of it is covered in trees. There are just so many trees down there now. They interlock with one another. You can't sit on some of the benches. I'm sure some of the other people will tell you that, because it's full of pigeon muck. You're fit to sit under there. So I think the trees do really need sorting out. I don't know. I've seen people have barbecues and that down there, which they're not meant to, but it's a garden, isn't it? But you've got to be so careful because there's so many trees down there. So I don't know if you're planning to do anything with any of the trees.
Okay, thank you. That's great. That's great information and input to get that, to understand, because obviously we're not there throughout the day every day. So it's really good to get that feedback. So thank you, Pat. That's great. Would anyone else like to offer anything about just observations of the existing spaces, like where either their favorite spots are, or where the most sunny area? Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for that. There is one more question on this activity sheet, but what I'm going to do is now pass the next part of our workshop over to Mish, and he's going to start to talk a little bit more about how we can start to reimagine the garden space.
Good, thank you, Tish. So I actually think I'll stop the share for a moment, and although most of us don't have cameras on, we can at least we can see the names and we can see how many people there are here.
I'm not too up on this. How do I put the camera on?
Okay, if you want to put camera on, you look on the bottom of your screen. On the left-hand side, there is a start. There's a little camera symbol.
No, I haven't. All I've got is Michael at Social Landscapes. There's no camera there.
The participant list.
Oh, that might be it. I'll do that. Yeah. Oh no, that's just giving me names.
So further left, I think, if you,
I'm just doing it on a phone, so I've probably got not
Okay.
seeing all the stuff that you're seeing.
It's a bit more
Don't
complicated.
worry, carry on.
Anyway, so I think, so what we'd like to do is just, before we really go into more ideas, because one of the key questions obviously is what can be done to improve your spaces or to make them better than they already are. What we'd like to do is just to hear a few things, what you enjoy about your outdoor spaces. What are the things that you love about them? And that, using that as a little starting point. So it'd be great to hear just maybe one thing from everyone who's on the call. And I know that there's some people who work around there. Maybe they also want to contribute something. That's very welcome. So what do you love about your outdoor space?
Well, I love the flowers, but I do think there should be, I don't know, maybe things down there for, you know, for the younger kids. We've never, the benches and all, and the tables and that, I actually got put in. I used to be the chairperson of the block. And when I did put them in, you could get the sun wherever. You know, we like a little bit of cover, but it's where the trees have overgrown. They certainly weren't like that. You know what I mean? The biggest one is outside my bedroom window. I suppose that's got to stay there. But it is a pain, I must admit. Especially once it's fully grown, you know what I mean? But yeah, something for the younger kids as well. You know, there's a lot of young ones in here and they've got nowhere to play.
Great, thank you, Pat. So you love the flowers in the garden and the
I love a flower. I don't mind the flowers.
They maybe have more sun, and yeah, you like something more for the younger kids. That's great to hear. How about some of the other people who are here? And you can also type it in the chat if that's easier for you.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, just as the lady said now, we had a lot of space that are killing. We love to enjoy the sun sometimes. There's in the hot summer, we always go down. It's nice to have all the building downstairs or to be sharing the place with other people. There is just only 2 benches. The children, most time they're playing on the garage in front of the cars. There is no enough space to play even football or anything. It's annoying for all the residents here. Many complaints we had, but it's, our playground is not safe. You can say always. So sometimes they escape and go downstairs, play in front of the cars.
Great.
So if we have just a small area for them to be safe or to be wide enough for them, because we have two green spaces, and both of them, like most of the time, are empty.
Yeah. Good. Thank you for sharing. So you enjoy
Spaces problem.
Funny bits. Yeah. Is someone else who wants to say something?
I said I just mentioned the space is a problem. It's going to be cramped. If you put a playground there, the garden is going to be cramped.
Do you want to let us know what the parts of the garden are that you enjoy, that you like the most?
Whole part. There are gardeners who take care of them. They trim their grass and all that. So at the moment, but they should add more flowers and all that, to it.
Yeah. Thank you. So just want to give a half a minute to see if someone else, there's a few more people here, if they like to contribute something. Okay, maybe I'll share the slide again, Tish, and then we'll share the different spaces that we'll look at. Good, so I'll pass over to Tish here.
You're right.
Tish?
Sorry, I always do that. I always forget to mute myself. Yeah, so what we're going to do next is we're obviously we've got the outdoor spaces. So you've got your garden spaces. We've already touched on these spaces, and there are different areas. And what we understand is that some residents can only access some of the outdoor spaces and not all of the spaces. I think that's what we've been told. So I've got a little bit of a list here, and we've had some feedback from Lancaster West Estate that these are some potentials, and there's some things that we've added in there as well that it would be good again to get your feedback on whether you would like some of these elements perhaps to be seen in your space moving forwards, or it's a complete like no, we don't want that. And it might vary from, you know, we might get a mixture of views on these different things. We've touched on the play for the children. Now I know that there's I think there's a playground quite close to this, so I think what we were thinking is if there's a space more like a playscape, so it's somewhere that children can be safe, somewhere they can they can run around in, but it's not necessarily a complete playground. Sorry, Pat?
Sorry, no, I was going to say, yeah, I don't mean a complete playground. I'm just thinking of, I don't know, just a little space for them, I don't know, to just sit at a bench and you know, in the sun without trees. Yeah, not all the garden. I don't mean all the garden.
Yeah.
And as for all that goes round us, which is round the block, it's not off limits, to be quite honest, but it's just people that live down the bottom obviously don't like people going round there, you know. I mean, we got them vegetable boxes at the back there, you can see in that bottom corner.
Yeah.
In that one, I don't know if anyone actually does anything with them now, because they're out of the way around the back there.
Yeah.
I think the front of the block could look a lot nicer than it does at the moment.
Yeah,
I don't know.
These photos were very much taken in the midst of winter. It was absolutely freezing the day that we
Yeah.
went. So we're not looking at this in its full glory. I totally understand that.
Yeah.
But, could you give any feedback if the raised beds, do you know if people use them? Do you know if people grow food?
Not to my knowledge. They were put in after I stopped being a chair. Well, I don't think we got a chair in here now anyway, as far as I know. People did do it, but I think they're the ones that started it. I'm sure they've moved out. I don't know if any of the ladies or anyone on here do anything down there. Well, I know I don't, so.
For me, it's the same. First time I hear about this because we can't access it. It's I don't know.
Yeah, you're allowed to access it, but it's a couple of them miserable buggers down the bottom there that probably get the hump with you down there, you know. So I think that's probably why a lot of people don't use them. They're in the wrong place, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. And so, I mean, another thing we're thinking of is if people were interested in potentially food growing or a little bit more gardening type of activities, whether or not a greenhouse would be appealing to residents. Again, would people like to have things like herb beds and where they could grow herbs and potentially use those for cooking? They could just go to the garden rather than actually going to a shop and having something in a plastic wrapper. They could actually go into their garden and pick some mint for a cup of tea or rosemary, whatever it is. The same with fruit bushes as well. These are sort of plants that don't take up huge amounts of space, but you can obviously have benefits for having them in your space. And the same things with fruit trees as well. Now I know there's obviously a concern already about the amount of trees, so perhaps that's not something that you would particularly want, but it's the idea of actually having edible and productive plants in the space, as well as things like having really nice plants to look at. It would be great to hear back what your thoughts are on any of that.
Yeah, I don't mind bushes. Get a few berries on there, we'll have them. But as for, I'll have to leave that to the other ladies if they want to do herbs and as such, you know, not my field. So they can put their input into that one.
Has anyone put anything in the chat? No. Okay. If anyone wants to put things in the chat, I'm hoping that you all know that there's on the bottom of the screen, if you've got a computer, at the bottom of the screen there's a little box with a speech bubble that says chat in it. It's available there if you want to pop any suggestions or ideas. The more people we hear from, the more we can create or start to create when we move through the next workshops. I think again we touched on the couple of things about having a social space. So I know that a few have already mentioned that there's not enough benches, or the benches are under trees and they're not pleasant to sit on. So yeah, would anyone like to sort of give any feedback or say anything else about that?
The only thing I can just say is move them away from under the trees. And then they're all going to get used. We could do with more. I mean, they've been in there years now. I don't know how many years, can't remember, but they've certainly been in there years, and they've well worn. I don't know. As I say, I haven't got any little ones, you know, now, so it is really, a lot of the mums should sort of speak up, you know, and say what they would like down there, I think. The ones that have got youngsters living in here now, you know.
Okay, great.
Other than that, I'm all for trees, or not trees, well, I don't mind bushes, and flowers. I don't know.
Okay. Oh, great, Pat. You're being very helpful. So again, I'm just going to ask if anyone else would like to have a little bit of input about any of those things, or anything that we've chatted about this evening before I move on to the next slide. Okay, so Mish, if you'd like to just put me onto the next slide, that would be great. So the next part of this is talking about, so this is very linked in with the refurbishments, and what it would be good, the architects have asked us to ask you how you see your balconies being used. Now I know that the new balconies that are being constructed are going to be quite a bit bigger than the ones that are as existing, and it would be good to know in terms of practicalities, whether or not you as residents would like to have things like a bike rack on your balcony, or you'd like to have plants on your balcony. And if you'd like plants on your balcony, how would you like those plants? And so the fixture and fitting, so obviously you can have things like hanging baskets, you can have balcony boxes, you can also have things like vertical growing, screening. There's lots of different types of ways that you can actually grow plants and green your balconies. So it would be, again, very helpful to have some feedback so we can feed on to the architects about the type of greening, if you'd like any plants or fixings on your new balconies to be.
If no one's saying anything, I don't want to keep butting in. Because we've got different sized balconies. On my side, I'm round where that lady said she lives down the bottom. 1 minute, no, 1 minute. Was she? No, so it's 10. No, I'm above the big tree that's in the garden. I'm at the top, on the 4th floor. But our balconies are a lot bigger than the ones. Is this bit showing onto Bowmore Road here?
Yeah,
yeah.
these
They've got tiny little balconies. So are you planning to do all the balconies?
The architects would have to confirm. I don't know if Lizzie's still listening. If she can.
Right, yes. The plans, I mean, at the moment are still developing, but we would hope to make sure that, well, definitely that everybody's got a balcony and that those balconies are bigger than, or particularly where they're quite small. I know that some of the one-bed flats have particularly small balconies, and this side facing Beaumont Road, make sure that what we're coming back with is bigger than what's there at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, right. The only other problem I've got, and then I'll have to leave it to everybody else at their input, up here on my balcony. I mean, we've got all, not only on my balcony, on the one next door as well, we're plagued with pigeons. I've had the window boxes, I used to have all flowers out there. I'm just dubious, you know, of having that netting down. Because it was really, really bad out there at one time. So unless you can come up with some way of stopping pigeons coming onto there, otherwise its netting's got to go back up.
So you had netting all the way around your balcony to stop the pigeons coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And out on the one, you know, where we come into our door. But I think, I'm not too sure from what I see of the plans. They're planning to block our balconies in, the ones that we walk along to our doors.
That's certainly quite a strong possibility, but we're still looking at options, and we're hoping to get to speak to you kind of over the next month or so to, you know, make sure everyone gets a chance to have their say on that. Yeah, yeah. Well, with that one, I mean, I'm fine, whatever you do out there. But it is the back balcony. You know, if you're going to make it open sort of thing, I don't know. It's just going to cause more misery, you know, with pigeons. And
feed them, that's why.
I know at the moment, I think Lanc West, don't we have someone comes around with an eagle or something every now and again? What do they call them? One of them big birds, a falcon or whatever, to try and scare them away. But the block is plagued with pigeons, and most of the places, even all the I don't know if all the balconies have got netting up, but we certainly have. And I'm looking at your design on here, if that's going to be like that or not. You've got a covering, but it's got holes in it, slats in it, is it?
Yeah, the slats are there to ensure that there is some shading to the windows below, because we know that already some people's homes overheat a bit, so we want to make sure that that doesn't happen, and particularly because these balconies are facing south, that's more important on that side.
Yeah, I was going to say that they're different to ours, yes.
Yeah, and your balconies are in sort of, you've got walls down either side at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas these guys, their balconies already stick out from the building anyway, so I don't think they have pigeon netting up because there's no sort of structure.
No, there's nowhere to put it for them,
yeah,
so
exactly.
I don't know if they, if any of them are on here. I don't know. Are they plagued with pigeons on their balconies? I don't know. No.
Certainly, I know it was one of the priorities of the block as a whole from the
it was, right, okay.
And I personally have only been onto one balcony, but they were having work done, so probably the contractors had cleaned up whatever was there, so I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Can I mention, please, also the drains, because I put for flower on the left side of my balcony. First time I plant something, but after that I noticed that the drain from the top balcony comes straight to it. That's why I take it out. So, and I would like to ask regarding the shades. I now can see in the picture the shades from the bigger balconies will be covering the sun, and so limiting the sun that's going on inside the house, or what?
Is Hagop still here? Because actually it was he who was involved in designing.
The roof. What was your question? Yeah, about the roof.
Because the other side of our building that faces the Beaumont Road, there is no sun at all. We have a lot of damp on the other side. So if this affect the sun to come in the house, it will be a big problem in the
See,
bedroom.
I can
Yeah.
talk about the shading briefly. So when this building gets retrofitted, and it's going to become a lot warmer because it's going to be insulated, so extra insulation is going to get added to the outside. And as a result of that, there's a possibility that the sun is going to overheat the buildings in the summertime. And so we have to think about shading very carefully. And we have to do a little bit of shading so that the summer sun, when it's high in the sky, is shaded out of the windows. So the high summer sun, the really hot summer sun, isn't sort of putting loads of extra heat into the flats at the hottest time of year. But the shading is also carefully designed so the winter sun can still come in. So the winter sun does come in and does help to heat the flats in the more colder times of year. And I think on the sides of the building that don't receive as much sun, we might alter the shading design, because the shading isn't going to be required so much on those sides of the building. So we would alter the balcony design so that we still get enough sun year round.
Okay.
So Maria has a question.
Yeah, what is this planted sunscreens? Are you referring to the roofs that's covering the balcony, or it's something else? Planted sunscreens I'm talking about.
Oh,
Yeah. So sometimes we can you can grow if you're getting a lot of sun into the building, or you'd like, or too much sun actually onto the balcony itself. You can create vertical screens with climbers, so you can have a plant at the bottom, and then you can run some cables or trellis, whatever you want, to allow the plants to climb up, and then that creates creates more shade, for example, than the ones that just the top ones that obviously the architects are building into the balconies themselves. So it's additional design to the architect's design, but using plants as a way of softening the space. And again, what we were talking about at the beginning is about how we can increase biodiversity in our urban areas. And so it's just an option that if you think it's a good idea, then of course let us know, and we can feedback to Hagop and Lizzie about that.
And the roof, I mean the shades that you have on top of the balcony, I don't know if you call them roofs, but what are those spaces? Is that with a plastic, or is it a covered space?
So those are like metal blades. And the reason there's gaps in between them is to allow the winter sun in, but the gaps are at a specific angle that when the sun is overhead, that's when it's going to create shade.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
So it's not transparent.
It's not going to be plastic, definitely not. It's going to be like fairly open, basically.
Okay, great. So I think we'll move away from the balconies now onto our last area that we're going to have a quick chat about, and it's the car park area next to the communal garden. And it would be great to know your thoughts. I think a few residents earlier on said about how there's sometimes kids play in the car park, and they play football in the car park, or you know, is there are all the car parking spaces used all the time, or is it a case of if we do want to create a children's area, or perhaps put a greenhouse, or use some of the car parking spaces for something else that the residents can enjoy in this outdoor area?
They're all full up as far as I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's only about
It's occupied most of the time by some of them are not permitted to park here. Most of them, there was a lot of concerns before regarding these issues. At the moment, I don't know, but before there was a lot of issues. That was many of the parking vehicles wasn't permitted to park.
Okay.
I think it's through the daytime more, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where they're doing so much work in here. I think it's those people, but whether they have permits to come in here or not, I'm not too sure on that. But of an evening, most of the, as far as I know, but the council can tell you that anyway, how many have taken.
If there was an opportunity, for example, to create like an outdoor gym or something like that, and it would be a case of perhaps taking a couple of these parking spaces away to create that. Is that something that you as residents would be interested in, or is it a case of you wouldn't use something like that, or perhaps there's a bike shed there, for example, or something? So I think it's just for us to understand whether or not you would be interested in creating some of these more sort of functional areas and potentially use some of the car park area for that.
I personally wouldn't, but then I've not got a car. And I certainly wouldn't use a gym, but we got the gym right behind us, in the sports centre. So I don't know. It's up to the people that got children, that are going to play down there or whatever.
There are gardens around, parks.
Actually, it's a nice option to have a small gym for not only children, some young people or maybe adults love this. We look for something that everybody can benefit from child to elderly.
Yeah, that
you're saying a gym or something like that would be a good idea or not a good idea?
I think it will be a good idea, yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
What about if you could use some of that space, to sort, like on most of the other estates, they've all got what do you call it? Like a room, a club, not a clubhouse, a functioning room. They got one on Henry Dickens. I know we wouldn't be able to have something like that, but if we had some sort of thing at the end of the garden, I don't know if any of the ladies here be interested in that, and then you can use it each night for different activities. Don't know.
Almost like a little community centre, tiny little.
Yeah, community centre. I couldn't think of the word.
Yeah. Okay.
But we always had one, but it was always we used on Lanc West, I used to have one over there. Yeah. I mean, I used to run a bingo and that over there.
Comment about the bike sheds. Bike shed.
Yeah.
You think bike shed is a good idea?
Yes, the RA has been requesting that, because in other buildings there are bike sheds where they can, hopefully safely park their bikes, because it's beginning to irritate already that some people just park it in the communal garden, which is not supposed to be the parking spaces for bikes or motorbikes. So bike sheds, hopefully they listen to us already. We've requested that a long time ago.
Thank you.
Another suggestion is the greenhouse. Robert, I call him Mr. Gardiner. He belongs to the RA committees. He suggested a greenhouse as well. So,
is it something you'd be interested in, to have a greenhouse where you can grow plants that you can then use on your balconies or in your flats as well?
Of course, yes.
And maybe also the little, maybe that would make people use the
brighten up, the surroundings, like flowers and things that would be more enjoyable to be in the communal garden as well. Now, regarding the car park, there's only about, I think, 14 or 15 of them allotted, and I'm not sure how many. Well, the council people or the neighborhood team would know how many residents are supposed to park in there.
I think they're pretty on the ball, because it's the men that ticket them on the roads outside that come in here. So it's not classed as a private car park anymore. It used to be, but sadly it's not now. So it's the parking attendants that actually give you tickets out on the road that actually come in here and ticket you in here if you haven't got your permit up. So obviously someone might pull in here, but I don't know, they pull in here at their own risk, don't they, you know? So I don't know, but you're meant to have a permit on the ticket. But as I say, the council will know how many is meant to be down there or not.
It's not the council, it's the people, it's the neighborhood team who's supposed to know who are the residents then who are supposed to park there. You've got to give priority to residents living there. Now, if they have more than one car, then that's their problem now of parking outside. That used to have bollards, you know?
Yeah, I know. I got them put in, so I know they were there. But then they kept breaking them, and then it cost too much money to keep. They used to keep backing over them. All the big lorries that come in, you know, people moving in and out and having deliveries. People never put them up. You used to put them up and lock them, but they got so expensive in the end that they done away with them.
Okay, great. Well, it's good to get all your. Yeah, I think it's something we can take up with the neighborhood team. I'm sure we can find out what the situation is with the car park. It's just to get your ideas of whether or not you think it would be beneficial to maybe use some of that space for some more functions in the outdoor areas around the house. So thank you very much for your feedback. That's fantastic. We've got lots of notes.
That's all right.
Great, thanks, Pat. If anyone else would like to say anything else, please either unmute yourself or pop something into the chat box. And if not, I'm going to pass you back over to Mish, and he's just going to tell you.
Can I ask regarding the rubbish bin? Sorry, they will stay there or in the front of the gate?
Rubbish bin.
Oh, yeah, those are for recycling.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what the plan is for the rubbish bins. So I don't know if Lizzie can.
It's definitely something we're still working out, both with Lancaster West neighbourhood team, possibly as part of sort of changes across the site to try and encourage recycling and composting of food waste and such like. But obviously, at the moment, you've got your rubbish chutes, so I guess that's quite convenient. So any changes that we would suggest to your rubbish and refuse policy would be something that we'd obviously want to speak to you about before we decided on anything, because it needs to be something everyone agrees to.
Right, yeah.
And it often turns out to be quite a controversial one, so
yeah.
carefully.
Good. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today. And I'd also, so there's an opportunity, you know, if you have other ideas that come to you, or if you talk to a neighbor about some of this, then please encourage each other to share that on, whether that's on the WhatsApp.
I'm talking for other neighbors.
I mean, it's really good to hear as many ideas from you as possible. We have another workshop in nearly 2 weeks, so on the 30th of March, and we're going to build on this. So what Tish and I will do is we will bring back some more visuals of some of the ideas that you've come up with or that you've shared, and just to sort of give an idea of how could these things look like in the space. And then, of course, you know, we're going to ask your opinion on those, and you can build on those ideas as well. So please come along as well again, and do share with your neighbors to encourage as many people to join us as possible. That would be great.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, thank you very much for coming, and I wish you all a good evening. And I'm not sure if Kat wants to say something or not. Maybe we'll just. Yeah.
Oh no, I just said thank you. Sorry, I was just saying thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kat. No, I said Kat from Lancaster
Oh,
West.
Kat. All right, carry on. Sorry.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. It's been a really, I think it's been a really useful session for everyone. Thanks to Social Landscapes and for really just, it's great to have your experience and your knowledge. And let's hope we can really. Sorry if you can hear my cat. Speaking of cats in the background, just making it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of this. Yeah,
Okay.
it's great to see as many of you as possible. Thanks to all the residents who came, of course. Yeah, it's really great to have you, and please do let other residents know about these workshops so we can.
Will do.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
You.
Thank you
Bye
very
bye.
much.
Joining.
Can I
Bye.
mention something? Sorry, before I leave.
Bye.
Sorry.
Sorry. Can I mention something before I leave? Sorry.
Yes.
The idea you said, just to make a little gym or something like mobility for children or any ages. It will be great if we do it in the green space and we leave the car park for the bikes or the something like this. It will be safer for everybody and will be much easier.
Yeah.
I think
Thank
car
you.
park needed here because like they said there's a lot of many people here had a card and we need delivery sometimes, big lorries or something come on. So it would be benefit to have the bike area or something like this better than the gym in the parking area.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.